Jay-Z's lawyer wants the woman who accused the rapper of sexual assault to reveal her identity. The woman accuses Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs of raping her in the year 2000 when she was 13. Jay-Z says this allegation is part of an extortion attempt. He says the woman's lawyer was trying to blackmail him into paying her a settlement before the allegations went public. The woman's lawyer says Jay-Z's accusation is stupid and laughable. Jay-Z's attorney is seeking a hearing for the accuser to reveal herself.
Areva Martin is a civil rights attorney, author, and radio talk show host. She joins us now to talk about this. Areva, thanks for being with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We saw the latest development yesterday that Jay-Z's lawyer wants the woman who accused him of sexual assault to reveal her identity. What does the law say when you have a minor? This woman was abused when she was a minor, age 13. Now, all these years later, can they force the woman to reveal her identity?
Yeah, it's an open question. Different jurisdictions take a different approach to this question. We've seen several high-profile celebrities go into court and ask a judge to force a plaintiff, a victim, an alleged victim of rape or sexual assault, to reveal herself so that that individual can, in their words, mount a full defense against the allegations. It's not clear what the court in this case will do, but it's kind of ironic that Jay-Z is asking that the identity of the alleged victim be revealed, because before this lawsuit became public, or because before the amendment was made by plaintiff's attorney, Jay-Z himself filed an anonymous lawsuit alleging that he was being extorted by the plaintiff and her attorney. And it wasn't revealed until recently that the person filing that lawsuit was actually Jay-Z. So filing anonymously is not new. It's something that we see very frequently in these cases. But again, in terms of what the court is going to do, that's an open question.
And I realize this is a civil situation at this point, but if there's no video, isn't it one person's word against another person's word? And how strong is that after 24 years?
Well, it remains to be seen what other evidence may exist. It's not clear if there is or isn't a video, but there's also the question of witnesses. One of the reasons Jay-Z's attorney says that he wants this individual's identity revealed is because he wants to be able to identify potential witnesses. This victim says that she was raped after an MTV party in 2000. So the question is, who else might have been at the residence where this alleged rape occurred? Who else may have knowledge about this alleged sexual assault? So it's unclear at this point what kinds of corroborating evidence may exist to support her claims, or those which may exist to support Jay-Z's vehement denial of these accusations.
And wouldn't the statute of limitations have expired for there to be any criminal investigation at this point?
Again, we've seen certain states, and New York being one of them, have opened up their statute of limitations for these types of claims, not just for civil claims, which is why these types of cases are being filed in civil suits, but also some statutes have been amended in different states to allow for criminal investigations and criminal prosecutions. Not clear if this particular claim falls outside of the applicable statute of limitations. And again, Jay-Z mentioned that in his response to the accusation, saying, look, what's described in this complaint is so heinous, it's so despicable, that if indeed it did happen, the person responsible should be held criminally accountable, not just being forced to come into courts and face civil claims such as the ones in the plaintiff's lawsuit.
What does this mean? You know, in a lot of these cases, we see celebrity A, none of them ever are named publicly. Does that mean that some of these other names in all of these lawsuits that have been filed might be revealed?
Well, what we know from this attorney, Tony Buzbee, this Houston-based attorney that has filed this case and filed the amendment, he said that he had over 100 individuals that he was going to file lawsuits on who were going to allege sexual assault or some kind of sexual misconduct on the part of Sean Diddy Combs. And that in addition to naming Sean Combs as a defendant, he would be identifying other high-profile celebrities. And Jay-Z is the first of the high-profile celebrities mentioned in a lawsuit involving Sean Combs. So I would not be surprised if we didn't see other lawsuits filed by this law firm, and perhaps even other law firms identifying other celebrities. What we know about the parties that Sean Combs gave during this time period is that they were often replete with high-profile music industry folks as well as TV and film celebrities. So I think this is the beginning, not the end, of the era where we will see lawsuits naming high-profile celebrities.
Areva Martin, thanks so much for joining us. You can hear Areva every day from 2 to 4 on Areva Martin in real time, streaming live on KBLA.com, or find her podcasts everywhere you find podcasts. Thanks, Areva.
Thank you.
Thank you.